Imagine a perfect world where you can build a restaurant, open the doors, and make loads of money. Unfortunately, those days are over. It takes great leadership, hard work, and long hours to operate a successful restaurant. Together, we can make it happen. This is Restauranttopia.
Welcome back to Restauranttopia. Today's episode is about discipline equals freedom. Dave Ross is going to talk about Jocko Willink's book and how you can implement it in your life. You're going to love this. It's going to change how you do things, how you look at things, and where you are next week and the week after that. Dave?
Yeah. No, thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. I'm jazzed about this episode because this is something that I've tried to take on over the last few years, but then especially in the last few months of this year. Going through the pandemic last year, I think there was a lot of introspective thoughts for a lot of people. You know, there was probably plenty of mental destruction going on and just psychological trauma. I think that what I've tried to do through this and kind of trying to be self-aware and seeing that is like, as we come into 2021 here, how do I get better at some of these things? And it really is, it sounds contradictory, but discipline will equal freedom. It sounds like two things that don't make sense. But as we go through this, I think you'll understand what it means and why it's said that way.
Oh, this you told me this, I'd say 2 months ago, and it blew my mind because it's something that I've been trying to implement. But like, oh man, I'm an artist. Like, just let me do my own thing, man. And like, you have this chaos, and it does not bode well for having a happy life, having freedom, and obviously this is the title of the book, but to having options. Yeah. And discipline gives you those options. It gives you the freedom. It gives you the ability to have opportunities throughout your life, whether it's financial freedom, whether it's time freedom, whether it's freedom to do X, Y, and Z. These are the types of things that we're talking about today that I think if you hang on and you listen the next 20 minutes, it will change your life.
Yeah, no, I love that. So let me ask you something, Brian. You want the good news first or the bad news?
Give me the bad news.
You like the bad news first? Is that normally your go-to?
Well, typically I have bad news and bad news. So
just the fact that there's good news,
it's nice, but I really don't believe you. But go ahead, start with the bad news.
So the bad news is you're in control.
That seems good.
You want to know the good news?
Oh, it is.
You're in control.
All right, that's good. Okay. I like it. All right.
So let me just paint you a picture. Okay, fault. Okay, let's talk about excuses.
Yeah.
Let's talk about just things in daily life.
Yeah.
You get in a fender bender, little car accident.
Yeah.
Whose fault was that?
I mean, typically your fault.
Could have been.
No.
Guy breaks hard in front of you. You were in it.
Your fault.
Your fault?
Yeah, 100%.
Do you think that most people have that mindset?
No.
Jerk in front of me slammed on his brakes.
That's exactly what they would say.
Yeah.
But think about the release of blame that you have when you look within and say, that's my fault. I was not paying attention. What do you know when you get on the road? People are going to break in front of you hard. People are not going to be paying attention. People are going to hit you. People are going to run out into the street. You have to be a defensive driver. Take accountability. And that's one thing I love about freedom of this book and the underlying theme. It's empowering.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you get on the road, accidents happen. The trucker goes left to center and takes out your entire car. Now what I'm talking about? I'm talking about the simple mistakes that you would play the blame game on when it's your fault.
Yeah, extreme ownership. Extreme ownership of the fault. No excuses. So you played sports, okay? You're the quarterback.
I was on the team.
You were on the team. Okay. You attended sporting activities.
I had a front row seat, as one would say.
QB goes to hand the ball off to the running back. Okay.
Yeah.
Fumbles it at the handoff.
Yeah.
You're the quarterback. Whose fault?
My fault. Quarterback.
Okay. Most people, he didn't have the pocket right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the server sends the wrong order in. Whose fault?
Was she writing it down? She didn't write it down.
I don't know. Maybe I didn't train her to write it down.
Oh, you're taking accountability.
That's what I'm talking about.
So there's a server out there playing mind games and saying, all right, I'm going to inject a bunch of anxiety into the system and just try to remember this 12 orders.
And roll a dice.
Yep. Oh.
So, but that's what it comes back to is in situations that you encounter in your life, are you typically making excuses and reasons why somebody else didn't do something right or somebody else did something wrong? Or are you looking at it and saying, even if it's ridiculous, like you go back and you say like, the server screwed it up. I didn't take the order. They took the order.
Correct.
It sounds ridiculous for me to take credit for their mistake on that, right? But really, is it when you think about it? Break it all down. How did I train that person to take an order?
Yeah.
Did I supply them with a notepad and a pen? Did I, you know what I mean? Like,
there you
you
go.
know what I'm saying? So when you see that happening, did I address it? Did I just see them take a 12 top and not write anything down? And did I say like, hey, maybe you could write it down? Like, you know, so I mean,
or we write down orders here.
So that's
Please
the ownership of the situations. You know what I mean? So I think that's a mindset and a perspective. You know, you have a choice to make an excuse, or you have a choice to take responsibility.
This is going to be difficult for some people to digest, because too often in our life we want to lie to ourselves. I'm not doing good because of the pandemic. Is that true? That may not be true. I'm not doing good because I can't find good people. Is that true, or is that a lie? I wasn't born with money. Is that why you're not successful?
I don't have enough time.
Lie.
No question. What happens when your kid makes an excuse?
Yeah, what do you say?
What do you say? I'm asking you.
Oh, what do I say?
Eli makes an excuse about something.
Don't ever bring that here again. Okay. No excuses. That's
but
your
how many
fault.
times? But how many times have you allowed yourself to make an excuse?
Yeah. No, way too many times.
So, and we've talked about this in past episodes. Like, you know, So you have the accountability on yourself that you would have for your children. We don't even hold ourselves sometimes the accountability that we hold others to.
Correct. And people who play the blame game want the other person to have this huge level of accountability when they're unwilling to have any accountability in themselves.
Yeah. The weather's bad. My alarm didn't go off.
A failed relationship.
The traffic's terrible. They didn't follow up.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't follow up.
I
sent the email and I never heard back. Okay.
Is it possible that they didn't get it? Is it possible that you didn't send it?
Is it possible that maybe their inability to follow up caused you to fail? And whose fault is that?
Yeah.
Is that their fault?
No.
So it's on and on and on. Life is hard, okay? You know, I take this back to, I really enjoy the sport, UFC, Ultimate Fighting Championship. I enjoy it a lot.
And not a lot of people spell it out like that and say it. All right.
Well, just because there's people out there maybe not be aware, but the UFC. So okay. I'm a big fan, you know, so
and
I'm not.
If you lived under a rock the last decade and are you unfamiliar with UFC, this is where two men or women enter an octagon and try to kill each other.
Well, they try to kill each other, but and the reason isn't because I'm some Neanderthal or because I'm some macho guy that just likes watching people fight. Like, I enjoy this sport so much and follow it because the discipline and the determination and the passion that it takes to be an elite athlete in that sport. And it's really any sport, any high-level sport. We could talk about the NFL, the NBA. We could talk about any professional sport. But I look at that, and because it's a very individual sport. It's you and somebody else in a ring
100%.
Going at it, okay? But the techniques, the mentality, the weight cutting, everything that goes into being at a high level in that sport, I have so much appreciation for. That's why I watch it. You know what I mean? It's not because I like watching people get hurt. You know what I mean? But what goes into the 8 weeks, the years, and then the 8-week camp that goes into them maybe 1 minute in a ring to knock somebody out or submit somebody or whatever it is, like the amount of work that goes into that, 25 minutes tops that they've got. It's inspirational to me. Like, it's really like, I love watching that. The sacrifice, the discipline it takes to be elite. Moving into this episode, the only thing that I can give you is really my perspective. You know what I mean? So Brian, I want you to interject. I want you to tell me your thoughts. And if you're out there,
lay it on me.
If you're out there thinking some things, we'd love to hear feedback. You know what I mean? But I can only give you what I know. And this was funny. Actually, you were involved in this conversation the other day. A guy told us, like, what makes an expert?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's like, it's basically anybody that has more knowledge than you on the subject. They're the expert, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to come off as like I'm the expert in this, but I've done some work in this. You know what I mean? So we'd love to have the feedback.
This is your journey. Again, you have to look within yourself, your operation. What are you doing to take accountability for your life, your actions, and where are you going in the future? Today is the first day of the rest of your life. I don't mean to sound cheesy, but it is. Like, yesterday's yesterday. The more time you spend looking in the past is irrelevant. The more time you spend talking about high school and past relationships and failed relationships, again, don't ignore your mistakes, but you got to look forward and take accountability for your actions, whether it's exercising more, eating less, treating other people good, following up, being more organized. All of those things that you need to do in your life that only you can do. But Dave's going to lay some truth bombs on you here. It's going to provide you freedom.
Yeah, so what's this concept here of discipline equals freedom? Because they appear to sit far apart. You're thinking like somebody that's really disciplined and somebody that's got freedom and all these things. They look like they're really far apart, but they're actually right next to each other. Yeah. They sit right next to each other. They're very close. So, what is freedom? Freedom is something everybody's looking for. Yeah. Free time, financial freedom, like you talked about, spiritual freedom, freedom from stress. Okay. And discipline is how you get there. So how do you get free time? It's normally by not using time wisely. Yeah. No, that's not. No, it's by using your time wisely. How do you get financial freedom? Is it by
spending all your money? No.
Not having discipline in money? Yeah. How do you free yourself from stress if you don't become disciplined at relieving your stress? You know what I mean? So they actually reside right next to each other. It all comes down to the start of this is really the decision. This sounds great, but if you got to make a decision, a quote that somebody gave to me years ago, they say, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. So I can sit here all day long and talk to you about what you should do, what you do, and tell you how to do it, whatever. But if you don't make the decision to start somewhere and do it, that's where this is going to come down to. So all this is going to be wasted without a decision.
This is your journey. We're not trying to preach to you or say, oh, hey, you got to do this or do that. If you want to make changes in your life and this is something of interest, then listen. If not, shut it off. I mean, the next episode will be great too.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why we're doing this is not to sound like we're the experts or we're here to preach to you, but there's somebody listening right now that's ready to make the decision. And they just need that little poke. Yeah. And this could be it. Okay. So what's the decision? So I'll talk about a little bit about my personal life. So about a year and a half ago, almost going on 2 years almost now, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. Please Google it. I'm not going to go through the details of what's involved in that. It's not fun.
Especially if you're in the restaurant business. Like, if you have the opportunity to eat out 4 times a day, it's not great.
So it was a very tough time going through that, the diagnosis of it, the mental of it. My life before, I was very loose. So like I ate what I wanted. I drank what I wanted, whatever frequency I wanted. And I don't do drugs. I don't do that kind of stuff, but I was very like loose with my lifestyle as far as like eating and drinking. And I just had the average American diet of gluten, carbs and dairy and beer and, alcohol and whatever,
repeat.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So I got to a point where I got this diagnosis and the doctor looked at me and she says, and here's what it is. And here's the medication you need to take. And you have a 30% higher risk of colon cancer and all this. And I went, what? That doesn't sound good. Yeah. So I'm 39 years old when I get this diagnosis. I got 2 small kids, now 7 and almost 4. And I'm like, that doesn't sound good. I'm like, I got to start changing some stuff. So I said, Doc, what should I do with my diet? And the response was, nothing. Just take the medication. Oh. And I was like, that sounds disconnected. In my brain, it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So I immediately went out and I said, okay, I'm ready to make a decision. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, I got another 40 years to live. You know what I mean? I got young kids. I got, so I tend to try to be a student of things. So I really tried to do some research and do some stuff. And I was lucky to find a health coach at the time that kind of got my diet straight and taught me how to manage stress and how to take supplements. And we did blood work to see where I'm, and I did all these things and I cut some things out. Nice. I'm gluten and dairy free for almost 2 years now. Nice. And I feel awesome. I lost 30 pounds. And if you knew me before, you wouldn't look at me and say I was overweight.
No, I wouldn't.
I lost 30 pounds. Okay. Through this whole process, feeling awesome. But the decision that I made, because in my life, I think there's 2 things in anybody's life. You're either going towards a goal or you're running from fear. You know what I mean? Like there's motivation. You're either going towards something great or you're leaving something bad. Yeah. I had to go to a place in my mind to make this decision that was probably the darkest place that you could ever put yourself. So I literally, I was visualizing my funeral and my young kids staring at my coffin. Yeah. And it was literally a couple weeks of like dwelling on that picture, and the decision was made.
It's that simple, and I'm not trying to make light of it because they're simple. They're so profound. This is a lifestyle change.
Yeah. But I had to go to that dark place. You know what I mean? I didn't have to. I decided to, and I said, you know what? Like, I'm too young to be on medication my whole life. I'm too young to. Yeah. Now it's different. If I was, and this is me personally, if I was 65, 70 years old, I get diagnosed, all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm going to eat what the fuck I want. And, I'm not going to care. You know what I mean? But I'm at a point in my life where I got young kids and I got a lot of years ahead of me, and I wanted to just have a different lifestyle. And so.
But you also don't have a mindset of, I'm going to take this pill and it's going to be better and I'm just going to continue on with my life.
So I had to go to that place. Yeah. Again, I keep correcting myself. I didn't have to go to that place. I decided to go to that place in order to have the motivation to make the decision.
No.
So that's the point that I'm talking about. I'm not saying everything in your life that you're trying to get better at or get disciplined at, that you need to go to that thing. But I'm just, that's an extreme example that I went through a while back that got me to a place that a lot of people wouldn't make the decision to do.
We talked about this in a past episode, complacency.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you need to do. How do you bump yourself out of complacency, out of lifestyle? Like, it needs to be something profound. And I think you do need to look within. And I know with my own personal belief, I've lost 40, 50 pounds before. Probably still need to lose another 10. Is that donut more important than being skinny?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to be fat? I mean, those are the types of things I have to ask myself when I see food, because I love food.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy food, but do I enjoy it as much as being skinny? And I'll tell you what, being skinny, feeling better, losing,
being healthy. You know what I mean?
Skinny is my code for healthy.
Yeah, I understand that.
I agree.
Yeah,
but I think healthy is a better way to frame it.
Yeah.
Because that's true.
And I think about it, like I knew the path I was going down and the life I had, and it wasn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I felt good, and maybe because of genetics, like I wasn't overweight. You know, but I lost a good amount of weight. I feel it in my joints, and I now I'm starting to work out. Like you know,
right?
I'm looking at these things, and I'm like, wow, I feel so much better. And if I knew the results that I would have, I might have made the decision without this like health crisis.
But you don't.
But you don't know.
You're
know what I mean? So
you're in it. You don't even know that you feel like crap.
Right.
It's
the norm.
It's the norm. Yeah.
No, for sure. So that difference, that's 1,000% the difference. So how do you make the decision part of your identity?
Mm-hmm.
How do you make sure? And it goes back to the smoker that says, you know, that gets offered the cigarette.
Yeah.
He goes, I'm trying to quit. Or the guy that you offer the cigarette, he goes, I'm not a smoker. It's an identity. I'm not a smoker. Okay, that's the difference. So
it's a profound mindset, though, that is life changing.
Yeah. So it's really about the decision.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you've quit and then you're back on, like you really didn't make the decision. Like you did for maybe a short period of time, but you didn't make a decision that this is the direction I'm going in my life. You know, so then once you make that decision with discipline, to be more disciplined in certain things, how do you create habits and goals associated with that? So you have goals of where you want to be. I want to be this weight, or I want to be, you know, be able to run this far. I want to, whatever it is. Okay, let's get crazy. We're talking about the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
I want to have this kind of sales goals. I want to have this type of operation. I want to have this many employees. I want to help this many people. I want to serve this many meals, or whatever it is. Okay. You got the goal. Okay. The habits that are going to lead you to that goal is really the system. And we've talked about that in episode 45, systems versus goals. You know, the habits become the system. So how do you make those habits? You got to identify what habits do you need to get to the goal. Okay. Start small. Okay. Don't bite off more than you can chew. What happens is people make all these restrictive decisions in the beginning that are tough to do all at once. So how do you take bite-sized chunks and build on it and become better every day?
And start with, whether it's going back to the restaurant industry, you want your staff to do X, Y, and Z better. Just 3 things. Yeah. Start training them on those 3 things.
Right. Or start with 1.
Correct.
And do that for 2-3 weeks, a month.
Yeah.
And then once that's in the system, boom, introduce the next one. You know what I mean? Like you haven't been doing it for X amount of time. So what's the problem with starting with one thing and just incrementally, getting better over time? Time
is moving forward. Whether or not you do these things or not, do you want to look back and say, I took action and did X, Y, and Z to make myself better? Or I haven't even started yet.
Right.
Today you can start. Today you can start moving forward. And put some thought into it. Don't do it haphazard. Like, write this down. Take a look at these show notes. Think of the things that you want to change in your life that will make things better. Now, again, don't try to do 55 things at once.
Yeah. So you're setting yourself up for failure.
Correct, yeah.
You know, absolutely. So take bite-sized chunks. You know, something. I mean, listen, during the pandemic, like I think everybody's sleep schedule got messed up. Probably.
Correct, yeah.
You're not having to go in the office, so maybe you sleep in a little later. You're up a little later. Like the whole so
the stress level was
your routine
really
screwed up. You know, so what I experienced was I was hitting the snooze a lot. You know, say alarm would go off, 7 minutes later, alarm would go off, 7 minutes later, alarm would go off. You know, and after 3-4 times, and you're getting up, and you know, you're just starting crummy. You know what I mean? So I set myself a habit in the beginning of this year. I said, I'm getting up at X time. And for me, it was 5:45. I'm getting up by 5:45 every morning. And I made that goal. So I set my alarm for 5:40. Yeah. Okay. Because I want to get up before 5:45. Set up for 5:40. And I would force myself the first couple times. As soon as it went up, it sucks. But I'm popping up. I'm sitting up. And getting out of bed. Okay.
That's good.
And so I did that for a couple weeks. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to think I'm making this up, okay? But I am now waking up probably within a minute or two of my alarm going off.
Yeah.
My eyes open. I start. And then the alarm goes off. A couple weeks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't years. Like this, it became like boom. Now it's like, now I'm up and ready to go at that time.
And that's the misnomer or lie people tell themselves, that like it's too difficult. Mm-hmm. It's not too difficult. You're strong enough to do this because you are 2 weeks away from changing your life.
Yeah.
Are you not willing to invest the time to do a few little habits that are going to change?
You know, and the difficulty is what makes us strong. It's what gives us fortitude. I mean, this is a great example. I just read in a book that I actually read this morning. I read this. I don't know if you remember when they created that biodome in Arizona. This was like back in maybe it was in the early 2000s or something. They created this like, you know.
It sounds like a thing out of the 90s, but
or maybe it was the 90s. Maybe it was the 90s. But they created in Arizona. It was called the Biosphere or biodome or whatever they called it, and they had this place inside of this isolated dome. It was glass and metal, and you know. Yeah. And so what they found out was that everything was perfect in there. You know what I mean? The environment was perfect. Everything was good. But when they were growing these trees, and after a few years, the trees were falling over. And they were like, "Why are these trees falling over? There's no wind." Okay, so what does wind do for trees? Yeah. It creates resistance. It creates friction. It creates, you know, the roots start grabbing harder. The bark's thicker. The tree starts reacting to that resistance and becomes strong. In the biosphere, the tree would grow to a certain height till it was too heavy to hold itself up, and it would start falling over. Okay,
that is crazy.
That's what discipline is. That's what a struggle is. That's what a challenge is. That's what when you go, oh, I can't do it. No, you can.
You can.
You can.
Why do so many kids fail when they get the trust fund money and they have no experience and everything's been given to them, and then the first little taste of adversity they fail? It's because of that. Like, you got to do the push-ups of life. You got to pull the weeds. Don't be afraid to take today as a catalyst to move you forward, but to know that the journey's not going to be easy, but it's going to be so much better than not doing the journey.
Yeah, no question. You know, so start small, do different things. You know, I Grant Cardone gave me this, but he goes, I love to beat the sun up in the morning. You know, I love to get up before the sun gets up. He's like, I feel like that's my first victory. I just, so I love that mindset. You know, the other one I hear, like, make your bed. You know, like always. Accomplish something in the morning, like accomplish something so that you set your day up properly. You know, not hitting the snooze button. You know, all those things. And then, so the last point I want to go into here is just accountability. Like, like you and I are friends. Like, you know, we've had discussions about things in our personal lives that. You know, we try to hold each other accountable to, you know what I mean? Like, whether it's gratitude or whether it's, you know, recording our parents, you know what I mean? We've made it little challenges for ourselves at times. And so do that with your friends, your family, your spouse. Let them know about your goals. Let them know about the habits you're starting. Like, don't keep it to yourself. Create some accountability where somebody can hold your feet to the fire. Like, hey, you know, you didn't get up on time this morning. Like, that's okay. Like, take that challenge. Have somebody challenge you. Have somebody hold you accountable. You know, I downloaded an app called Habit Share recently that, you know, creates like an accountability group where you can share habits and it shows you when you're doing them. And I've had people say, you know what, listen, I kind of got off track a little bit, but I kept seeing you hit your habits every day. I got to get back in it. You know what I mean? Like, but without that, they might have just stopped doing it.
Well, and also you're going to stumble a little bit. That's part of life. Like, you're going to have an issue. A pipe is going to burst at the restaurant, or some, you know, life event that's going to happen, and take accountability. You know, life is not a straight line. Things are going to come at you and disrupt you. What are you doing to move forward? Always be moving forward.
Yeah, but how do you react to it? How do you take care of it? How do you get it done so you can move on and take care of business?
What's the thing you can control?
Yeah.
Your reaction.
Yeah.
Think about that. The thing you can control out of whatever happens to you today, tomorrow, next week is your reaction. Own that. Take control. Have the discipline.
Yeah.
Equals freedom.
Absolutely. Every time. Every time. So, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this, Brian. I appreciate you talking this out with me because I think this is important. And even though we didn't go into a lot of restaurant specifics here, this translates into everything in life. So
no, this is 100% everything that you're dealing with in your operation, in your personal life. Read this, understand it, implement it. I think it'll be really good for you. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Dave, for bringing this up to us.
Yeah, you got it. My pleasure.
Yeah. This is a high quality pod.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Cut.
Adios.
Thank you for listening to Restaurantopia. The gratitude that we have for each and every one of you spending your precious time to listen to this podcast is immeasurable. Please make sure to tell a friend about this podcast. And also, if you have any feedback for us, visit us on restaurantopia.com and drop us a line. You can also subscribe on your favorite place to listen to podcasts. Thank you and have a great day.
Would have been better with Anthony.